The first time my family told me art was worthless, I was 12. I'd spent weeks working on a painting for my father's birthday, a detailed cityscape of Manhattan, where he dreamed of opening his next law office. He took one look at it and said, "Nice hobby, Olivia, but it's time to focus on real studies. No one makes money from art." 15 years later, I stood in my private studio in Chelsea staring at the same painting. It hung alongside my newest work, the collection that would debut at tomorrow's gallery opening. A collection nobody in my family knew about because I'd been showing under a pseudonym for the past 5 years. My phone buzzed. Mom's daily guilt trip right on schedule. "Darling, Thompson Associates is still holding that junior associate position for you. Your law degree is going to waste while you play with paints." My law degree. The one they'd forced me to get instead of going to art school. The one I'd earned while secretly taking night classes at the Art Students League, learning techniques that would later become my signature style. "Still not interested, Mom," I texted back. "At least your sister is making us proud," came the swift reply. "Caroline just made partner at her firm. When are you going to grow up and join the real world?" I looked around my studio, 5,000 square feet of prime Manhattan real estate, paid for with the proceeds from my last 3 shows. The real world was doing just fine, thanks. "Some of us have different dreams," I wrote back, then silenced my phone. My assistant Julia poked her head in. The gallery called. "They're ready for the installation whenever you are, Ms. Rivers." Ms. Rivers. My professional name taken from the city rivers I loved to paint. Only a handful of people knew that the reclusive artist Isabella Rivers, whose urban landscapes sold for millions, was actually Olivia Chin, the disappointing daughter of New York's most prestigious legal family. "Thanks, Julia. Is everything set for tomorrow night?" She nodded, consulting her tablet. "All the major collectors confirmed. The waiting list for the opening is over 300 people. And..." She hesitated, "Your family's law firm requested tickets. Apparently they represent one of the collectors." I smiled, remembering all the times they'd mocked my art. The dinners where they'd lectured me about wasting my potential. The constant comparisons to Caroline, the successful daughter. "Give them VIP passes," I said. "Front row seats for the big reveal." My family had no idea that I'd been building my career in secret, showing my work under a pseudonym while they thought I was finding myself. They assumed I was living off my trust fund, probably struggling to make rent in some dingy apartment. They didn't know about the studio in Chelsea or the loft in Tribeca, or the beach house in the Hamptons. They'd never seen the magazine features about the mysterious Isabella Rivers, whose paintings of urban landscapes had revolutionized contemporary art. Tomorrow night that would change. I turned back to my latest piece, a massive canvas capturing the essence of New York at twilight, buildings bleeding into sky in my signature style. The technique I'd developed had caught the art world's attention 5 years ago. Critics called it revolutionary. Collectors called it genius. My family called my painting a waste of time. "Your sister argues cases before the Supreme Court," Dad had said at our last family dinner. "And you dabble in watercolors." I hadn't bothered correcting him, telling him that my dabbling had already earned me more than his law firm made in a year. Let them think what they wanted. Tomorrow they'd learn the truth. Julia returned with another update. "The Times wants to do a pre-opening interview. They're still hoping Isabella Rivers will finally show her face." For 5 years I'd maintained my privacy, never appearing in public as Isabella. My agent handled all the sales. My work spoke for itself. But tomorrow night at my biggest show yet, Isabella Rivers would finally be revealed. My phone buzzed again. "Caroline, this time, Mom's worried about you. Time to stop playing artist and get a real job. My firm needs paralegals." I let out a laugh that echoed through my studio. Caroline, who thought being a law firm partner was the height of success. Caroline, who had no idea her little sister's paintings hung in museums. The last family gathering had been particularly brutal. Caroline had just won a big case, and the celebration dinner turned into another lecture about my life choices. "I just don't understand," Mom had sighed, swirling her wine. "You had such potential. Now you waste your days with paint and canvas while your sister changes the world." Dad had chimed in. "Do you know how many strings I pulled to get you into law school? And you throw it all away for art." I'd sat there quietly letting them talk, knowing what they didn't. That my last painting had sold for more than Caroline's yearly partner salary. That museums were competing to host my shows. That the very galleries they name-dropped at parties were begging for my work. Now, standing in my studio surrounded by the collection that would finally reveal my identity, I thought about all the times they'd dismissed my passion. The art classes they'd forbidden. The supplies they'd hidden. The dreams they'd tried to squash. Julia appeared again. The gallery just sent over the price list for approval. I glanced at the numbers. My smaller pieces started at $500,000. The centerpiece, my Twilight New York canvas, was listed at $2.5 million. Perfect, I said, thinking of Caroline's proud announcement about her six-figure partner salary. And the guest list? My family's all confirmed through their firm. Front row seats as requested. I stepped back, taking in my collection. Each piece represented a moment they'd tried to discourage me. The cityscape from childhood. The river at dawn I'd painted instead of studying for the bar exam. The storm over Manhattan from the night I'd finally moved out, choosing art over law. Should I have their names on the VIP list? Julia asked. No. Let them check in as representatives of their firm. I want them to experience the full impact when they realize who Isabella Rivers really is. My phone buzzed one more time. A family group text from Caroline. Guess who's representing the mysterious artist Isabella Rivers' biggest collector? Finally got tickets to her reveal show tomorrow. Can't wait to see what the art world's latest sensation looks like. I smiled, picturing their faces when they realized the latest sensation was the daughter they'd dismissed for years. The caterers need the final count, Julia said. Tell them to add an extra bottle of champagne to my private reserve, I replied. I think I'm going to need it. The gallery hummed with anticipation. New York's elite art crowd mingled with celebrities and collectors, all waiting for the mysterious Isabella Rivers to finally show her face. Through the security cameras in my private room above the gallery, I watched my family arrive. Caroline came first, wearing her court suit-like armor, already networking with potential clients. Mom and Dad followed, looking important in designer outfits that probably cost less than a single brushstroke on my smallest canvas. 5 minutes until the reveal, Julia murmured, adjusting my designer gown, a far cry from the paint-splattered jeans my family was used to seeing me in. I touched the small cityscape necklace I wore, the only piece of art my family had ever supported. Grandma had given it to me before she died, whispering, "Don't let them dim your light, my darling artist." Ms. Rivers. The gallery owner knocked softly. Everyone's in position. Your family is in the front row as requested. I took one last look in the mirror. Gone was the struggling artist my family pitied. In her place stood a woman whose work commanded millions, whose name made headlines, whose talent had proven every doubter wrong. Ready, I said. The gallery lights dimmed. A spotlight hit the podium where the owner began his introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, for 5 years, the art world has wondered about the true identity of Isabella Rivers. Her unique vision of urban landscapes has revolutionized contemporary art. Her work hangs in major museums worldwide. And tonight she has chosen to finally step into the light. Through the camera feed I watched my family's faces. They looked bored, probably thinking about billable hours they could be logging instead of attending an art show. Please welcome, the owner continued, the artist who has captured the soul of our city, Isabella Rivers. I descended the curved staircase, my dress catching the light. The crowd gasped, partly for dramatic effect, partly because no one had expected Isabella Rivers to be so young. Then I reached the bottom step, turned toward the front row and smiled directly at my family. The recognition took a moment. Caroline's eyes widened first. Then Mom's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. Dad's face went from confused to shocked to pale. Thank you all for coming, I said into the microphone, my voice carrying across the now silent gallery. Art has always been my truest voice, even when others tried to silence it. The audience applauded, unaware of the drama unfolding in the front row. Critics rushed forward with questions about my technique, my inspiration, my decision to reveal my identity. Ms. Rivers, one called out, your latest piece is already bid up to $2 million. Did you expect this level of success? I looked directly at my father. Success comes in many forms. Some measure it in billable hours. I measure it in brushstrokes. The evening became a blur of interviews and congratulations. Collectors bid against each other for pieces that had been painted in secret while my family thought I was wasting time. Museums' representatives negotiated for exhibitions. Finally, Caroline pushed through the crowd, her lawyer face on. Miss Rivers, we need to talk. About what? I asked coolly. About how art isn't a real career. About how I'm wasting my potential. Or about how your firm's client wants to buy my painting for $2 million. We didn't know. Clearly. I signed another catalog for a collector. How's that partner salary looking now, sis? Mom and Dad hovered nearby, clearly unsure how to handle this new reality where their unsuccessful daughter was the star of the evening. Darling, Mom tried, why didn't you tell us? Would you have listened? Or would you have tried to take control, like you did with every other aspect of my life? We were trying to protect you, Dad said. The art world is so uncertain. I gestured around the gallery. Does this look uncertain to you? My smallest piece here is worth more than your monthly law firm profits. But you never showed us your work, Mom protested weakly. I showed you everything when I was younger, I corrected her. You just never saw it. You were too busy pushing me toward law school, toward your definition of success. The gallery owner approached with an urgent expression. Ms. Rivers, the MoMA curator, would like to discuss a solo exhibition. Of course, I smiled. Excuse me, family. Some of us have real work to do. The next morning my show made headlines everywhere. Mystery artist revealed. Legal family's black sheep is art world's golden child. Isabella Rivers. The $20 million secret. My phone exploded with messages from family members who'd dismissed my art for years. Cousins who'd laughed at my paintings now wanted commissions. Aunts and uncles who'd sided with my parents suddenly remembered they'd always supported my creativity. Caroline's message was the most interesting. We need to talk about representing you legally. Your art career clearly requires proper management. I had Julia send her a formal response. Ms. Rivers is already represented by the top art law firm in New York. But thank you for your interest. Mom tried next. Darling, we should host a family dinner to celebrate your success. I'll invite all our society friends. Sorry, I texted back. Too busy preparing for my MoMA exhibition. Dad's message was the most surprising. I still have that cityscape you painted me for my birthday. I keep it in my office. I went to his law firm that afternoon, curious. There it was, hanging behind his desk. My first serious painting, the one he'd dismissed all those years ago. When did you frame it? I asked from the doorway. He jumped, turning to face me. Right after you moved out. I realized it might be the last piece of you I'd have. And now I realize it might be worth millions, he tried to joke. That one's not for sale, I said quietly. Some art is too personal to price. He nodded, understanding something for the first time. I was wrong, Olivia. About everything. Yes, you were. I studied the painting, seeing how far my technique had come. But you taught me something valuable. Success is the best revenge. Are we? He hesitated. Are we still family? That depends, I replied. Can you accept that your daughter is an artist, not a lawyer? That my success came from following my dreams, not yours? The silence stretched between us, filled with years of disapproval and dismissal. Your newest piece, he said finally. The Twilight Cityscape. It's extraordinary. It's sold, I told him. For $2.3 million, actually. A record for a contemporary urban landscape. He sat heavily in his chair. More than our firm makes in a month. Success comes in many forms, Dad. You just have to open your eyes to see it. I left him there, staring at my childhood painting, and went back to my studio. I had a museum exhibition to prepare for. The next few months transformed my family dynamics completely. Caroline stopped bragging about her partner salary when she realized my monthly art sales exceeded her yearly income. Mom's society friends now bragged about knowing the famous Isabella Rivers, though Mom had to admit she'd never actually been to my studio. I maintained my boundaries, focusing on my work while letting them adjust to the new reality. They weren't invited to my private showings or studio sessions, but they could attend public events, just like anyone else who had doubted Isabella Rivers. 1 year after my revelation, I opened my own gallery in Chelsea. The centerpiece was a new collection called Silenced Voices, paintings representing every time my family had tried to stifle my art. The show sold out in hours, breaking records for a contemporary collection. Caroline came to the opening looking uncomfortable in the art crowd. "I have to admit," she said, watching a collector write a 7-figure check for one of my pieces, "you proved us all wrong." "That wasn't my goal," I replied, signing another catalog. "I just proved myself right." Now when my family brags about their successful daughters, they have to mention both, the lawyer and the artist. The one who followed their path and the one who blazed her own. And in my father's office, that childhood cityscape still hangs behind his desk. Not because it's worth millions now, but because it reminds him that sometimes the greatest success comes from letting go of your expectations and letting talent speak for itself. I still paint every day, but now I do it in a light-filled studio overlooking the city I love to capture. My work sells for prices that make my family's legal fees look like pocket change. Museums worldwide display my pieces. But my favorite painting? It's still that first cityscape, the one that taught me sometimes you have to believe in your art even when no one else does. Sometimes the most valuable masterpiece isn't the one that sells for millions. It's the one that shows you who you really are, even when everyone else tries to paint a different picture.